Hello, and welcome to W.I.S.E. W.I.S.E stands for Women Inspiring Success and Empowerment. This is a 10-part podcast series featuring interviews with successful, inspirational women in business, art, entertainment, and more. I'm Aviv Rubenstein, producer of W.I.S.E. And as you might have guessed, I'm not the regular host for this show. This week, we're going to do something a little different. Yoga and meditation teacher, author, and host of W.I.S.E, Rosie Acosta, will be joining us this week as our guest. Rosie has had an incredible story that the more I learned about, the more I became convinced needed to be shared with the W.I.S.E audience. The world can often feel like total chaos, especially 2020. Political, environmental, social, and economic upheaval clog the airways and can create an inescapable vortex of frustration, anxiety, and despair. And then there's that little issue of COVID-19. But the world has always been chaotic. Very few of the things that are pushing our panic triggers now are new. It's our job to navigate that chaos, to help ourselves and our communities have a better, easier, and happier life. Rosie Acosta has done just that. Rosie experienced a chaotic childhood growing up in East LA, witnessing gang violence and being roped into the juvenile criminal justice system. But with the help of her family, friends, students, and a wise stranger, Rosie learned how to manage the chaos of her life and become a beacon for those who are looking to find that peace, that love, and that beauty in their own lives. Rosie hosts Radically Loved Radio and normally this podcast. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Rosie Acosta. Hi, Rosie.
Hey, how are you?
Good. So this
Producer extraordinaire.
is a producer, adequate in air. This is a weird version of the show that we both produce, which is called W.I.S.E, which
This
stands
is
for
true.
Women Inspiring Success and Empowerment. So I'm Aviv Rubenstein. I'm the producer of the show, and today I'm going to be interviewing the host of the show, Rosie Acosta. And this is because Rosie has a super interesting story that I find particularly inspiring, and so I strong-armed her into agreeing to do this.
He had to really convince me.
I did.
So you guys know.
So why don't you start by telling us who you are?
Well, I am a yoga and meditation teacher trainer. I am a ocean lover. I'm a dog mom. I'm a sister. I am a partner in crime.
To whom?
And to Mr. Tory Pendergrass.
Ah, yes, the great.
And yeah, I am I love to cook. I feel like I'm being interviewed for a dating show right now. It's hard for me to just, say the who and the what, because I feel like when people just give a title, it's so
Yeah, on your bio it says
surfacey.
yoga and meditation expert, right? And so
Oh,
that is
wonderful.
a
Who determines that is what I want to know. Like,
this is I think it's extremely reductive because I know plenty of yoga and meditation experts and none of them have the story that you do.
hmm,
So, let's
thanks.
start with let's just kind of take me through what it was like being you growing up.
I will have to Venmo you after we're done because that was a great little segue. So I grew up in East LA during the 92 LA riots, and that is part of my formative story um, of how I came into the world of healing, so to speak.
Mhm.
I was in a very chaotic environment, and I lived in a small 2-bedroom apartment with like 12 people.
Okay, so I want to unpack every little bit of that
Oh
sentence,
my
right?
God.
So, the LA riots for those of you who might not know if you're too young or if you're not familiar, Rodney King was beaten on video by a couple of white police officers who were then acquitted of all charges. And it
Correct.
started like a weeks long race, basically a race riot in LA.
Yeah. And it was something that was not unfamiliar to Los Angeles. They'd experienced the Watts riots just, 30 years prior, 20 years prior to
Mhm.
that. And racial tensions have always been high in Los Angeles, especially during that time. And there was, as we are seeing now, a huge abuse of power with law enforcement. And we experienced it in a mostly Black and Hispanic community. And so I grew up just in this
Oh,
environment.
Rosie,
I know. I'm so fucked up.
this is
Sorry.
staying. This is all staying in.
Oh God. Okay.
Phone's on silent, please.
Phone is on silent. I'm
Um,
sorry.
so you grew up in this community.
Yeah, I grew up in this community where there was uh it was very predominantly Hispanic and Black, and with the Hispanic neighborhoods there was a lot of people that didn't speak English. There was a lot of illegal immigrants. It was not a very sort of uh safe environment to grow up in. Like, we weren't allowed to play outside because there would be the occasional drive-by shooting, or there might be a local, gang fight in somebody's driveway. Like, it was very it was a war zone for
Uh,
sure.
and that leads us back to you living in a 2-bedroom apartment with 12 people.
Yeah, with my both my parents, I am first generation. Both my parents immigrated to this country, and little by little, like, they started to have we became kind of like the hostel for relatives of my family that were coming through or coming to the country, trying to find a better way to live, to make a better life for themselves. And most often they would just end up staying with us.
Sure.
So that was that was sort of that what my household consisted of constantly. There was constantly people in our home, relatives, non-relatives. My parents have big hearts, and so it almost seemed like anytime anybody needed something, they always just landed with us. We didn't have very much to give, but whatever we had, we would always give it to whoever needed it. I remember being little, and my mom took in this mom who had just she had found, not that my mom was out looking for people, but she had found this woman at a bus stop, and she was there, and she was sitting crying with her two young daughters, younger than I was at that point. I think I was maybe like 6 or 7, and ended up bringing them back to our home just to feed them and to try and figure out how to give them money. I think she was trying to get like a bus ticket to go up to San Francisco. She had some family up there, and so my mom brought them in, and I remember her, giving them like some of my clothes, like some of the little girls' clothes. And I just remember feeling like, wow, these people like don't have anything, like literally giving them the stuff that we have from home so that they could, like go on their journey. It's just very, um, it's very sad, but also very like inspiring, and on my mom's part, and my family's part, for always being those people, that didn't have much, but whatever they did, they would try and do the most.
And it paints an interesting picture of you who has then dedicated your life to healing, growing up in such a what you have referred to as at times as like a war zone, right? With the institution being violent toward the people being violent toward each other, and you had these really good examples of generosity and kindness and healing like in your house. Did that ever how was that lesson to learn? Was it an easy or difficult thing? Like when your mother gave your clothes to this person, did you
Oh
feel
no, I
a
was mad.
pang? Yeah.
Oh, I was pissed. Oh my God, I was crying. I remember I was really upset because I knew how much work it was for me to get. There was this cute little, I remember exactly like what she gave away because I didn't have that much stuff. And there was this little, I had the same dress in two different colors, in blue and in pink, and it had
Mhm.
little bunny rabbit on on both. It was the same little bunny rabbit. And she had asked me, like, which one are you okay with me giving away? And I was like, none.
Neither
Like,
of
those are
them.
my favorite.
Yeah.
Those are my favorite dresses. And I can't remember actually which one she gave away, but I remember being extremely angry and devastated. And I just didn't understand why. And it was a great lesson. I mean, truly thinking back, like, that really taught me a lot about not attaching to. Wow, I'm literally having an epiphany right now. Like, this literally is crazy because I think it was that was the moment where I learned the lesson of not being attached to material things. And since then I've never been attached to material things. I'm so not. There are certain little things, like I have 3 things from my childhood that I still have today. But if everything else, went away or disappeared, I wouldn't be sad about it. Like, it was just such an interesting lesson to learn at that age, being angry and being so upset about a dress where,
Hmm.
you're young. Obviously, you're not thinking like, "Oh, I got to practice non-attachment. I got to
Right.
tune into my my inner Buddha." Because there was so much injustice and chaos going on that I didn't understand. Like, here's where this sort of
And it's not like you
paradox.
had a bedroom with a walk-in closet and a
Right.
elevator.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there was the paradox of also being raised in a Catholic household where you just believe that God does everything for a reason and that's the way things need to be, and only people that do bad things have bad things happen. But also that didn't make sense to me because there was a lot of good people that I knew that had a lot of bad things happen to them. So there was also this sort of existential dilemma that I went through at that young age as well, because I didn't understand if God was so great, why did bad things happen to people, you
Hmm.
know?
And that's still, I mean, that's a question that everyone asks at certain times, right?
Right. Right.
um
It's true.
and it's also interesting that you had two of the same dresses,
Mhm.
right? So it's like,
Spoiled.
yeah, well, quite spoiled, but also like the it's just like kind of interesting and wise of your mother to give away the thing that you had a copy of, as
Right.
opposed to something that was quote unquote one of a kind.
Right. And she did give a lot, and I didn't care about like the toys or any of the
Hmm.
stuff. I was like, yeah, I'm happy to to give those things away. Like, I was much better at giving things away than sharing. I was never a good sharer. Still am not a good sharer. We'll have to unpack that on the next season.
Sure.
But I'm happy to give it away, but for some reason it was that, yeah, that attachment to, maybe it was just having extra of something
Right.
because we didn't have extra of anything. So
Right.
it felt like you're taking away the only thing that is special to me. And I know it sounds so fucked up, but it's like, as a kid, like,
No,
kids are
it
literally
absolutely
the most
doesn't.
selfish creatures on the planet, aren't
Yeah.
they? Like, they really are.
Cuz they're
They're
cuz kids, like, locus of control is about this big, right? So
right.
like the world stops existing outside of their bedroom or outside of their house. And so as a 6-year-old, your mom comes to you and says, "You're never going to see this dress again. You're never going to see the person I'm giving your dress to ever again." Of course you're pissed. I want to know your journey of being that pissed 6-year-old to learning that lesson, cuz I'm sure it wasn't
Oh,
that night.
I'm like, wait, so that was 6 years old. I'm 37, so it's taken about 30 years. Yeah, that angry child turned into an angry teenager. So it took quite a long time for me to think about that transition and when
Mhm.
that catalyst actually
Well,
happened.
let's talk angry teenager then.
Well, I think part of sort of being in that environment really, and the normalization of chaos was so predominant in my neighborhood and with my friends that it was just par for the course. Everybody had the same experience. So your experience of being in a chaotic environment was not unique. So everybody just navigated through life understanding that that was just the playing field. Those were the rules. That's just how it was. And so by the time I was a teenager, I was suffering from debilitating panic attacks and depression and anxiety, and there was just so many things going on, and nobody attributed it to the fact that I had been in an environment that was really chaotic, that
Mm-hmm.
I had seen people, get shot and seen physical violence, that we lived across the street from a neighbor that would get beat to a bloody pulp every night. Like the types of things that one of those things can be attributed to having PTSD. You put them all together in an environment that was constantly chaotic.
Right.
Nobody thought that that had anything to do with why I was having a hard time going to sleep. I had insomnia. I had a hard time, going to sleep at night. So I would stay up all night and sleep during class, like during the day, because it was the only time I felt safe. There was this whole feeling of being unsafe. And so I was hanging out the wrong crowd, as you do, because there really is only two choices when you're that age. It's either you become a product of your environment, or you get chastised by your environment because you're not part of
Mm-hmm.
what the norm is. So
Yeah, they want to homogenize you.
yeah, so those were my options. I started to get in trouble with the law. I was just going down this wrong path that felt inevitable, and it felt in a way normal, because that's sort of your model, right? Your model is seeing that everybody is involved with getting arrested, or everybody goes, all of your friends go to juvie. Like
That's just
that's
what happens.
normal,
Yeah.
So I didn't really want to be that statistic. I didn't want to be that person. And so when I did get arrested and I was in front of the judge and it was time for me to get sentenced, I had to make a decision. I either made a decision to become a product of my environment, just like what society expected of me, become another uh, person in the system, or I made different choices and I just opted to make a different choice. I took a chance in modeling behavior that I didn't see modeled in
Mm-hmm.
front of me, and take that risk. And I'm glad that I did, because I ended up here
Here,
in
yeah.
this very, very
The
exciting place.
the interesting thing that I want to touch on about the angry teenager, right, is the
Mhm.
angry teenager was a depressed teenager. And most people kind of who, even those who have been touched by depression, the general consciousness of depression is like, I can't get out of bed, I'm so sad, right? And for you and for a lot of people, that was like step one, but it ultimately manifested in this like anger,
Mhm.
right? In being very active in.
Yeah. My depression was not, and in fact, even as it showed up in my adult years, it has never been I'm going to lay in bed and watch TV all day. And I mean, I've done that too, but like this sort of like not wanting to leave and just being in a dark room. That's sort of what people think of when they think, oh,
Mhm.
somebody's depressed. My depression did not look like that. My depression was this low grade, consistent tension of not knowing what was going to happen, or what I wanted to do, or if I even wanted to do any of it. You know, it was very, it felt very like
Yeah.
hopelessness. And hopelessness can look different on on different people. Some people you can really tell, like, wow, they're really down, they're really depressed, and while still functioning. I was a very high functioning depressed person, because I've always had that personality where it's like, oh, she looks like she's okay, like she looks
Mhm.
like she's fine, but truly it's really that low grade vibration is still resonating internally, and it shows up in different ways. It shows up in your sleep, it shows up in your lack of concentration, it shows up in your physical body.
And even
Like,
and even like you're engaging in risky behavior because that's what's been modeled for you, but also like it doesn't matter anyway because we're all gonna
right.
die.
Yeah. Who
Um,
cares?
who cares?
What's the point?
And so what snapped you out of that? I mean, I don't know even know if it was a snap. I don't want to because that makes it sound like a light switch. What
Yeah.
helped you crawl out of that?
Yeah, and thank you for saying that because I also agree with that. I don't think I akin it to having a spiritual experience. Like
Mm-hmm.
not all of it has to be ecstatic and um you know like expansive
Mm-hmm.
and very
It's not.
dramatic.
It's not a movie, right? It's not
Yeah,
like
no.
you meet the burning
No.
bush and the burning bush tells you to get your shit together.
Yeah, and some are, and kudos to you if that's you. If you had that, awesome. I haven't, um, but I have had some really deep spiritual experiences, and so for me, I think it was definitely a slow crawl
Mm-hmm.
and a slow climb, and it definitely took a lot of things aligning at the right time. Even after I got arrested, once I made that decision, it still took a while for it to actually happen. I was assigned, I think, to like 6 months of probation, and the 6 months still wasn't enough time for me to get my shit together. And it took a year after that. So I was on probation basically for a year and a half, which for a teenager in high school, it really sucks because it really
That's a lot.
limits you.
Yeah.
It was basically half of my sophomore year and all of my junior year in high school. I
And
couldn't
those
even
are
do
formative
yeah.
social times.
Yeah, I couldn't even do extracurricular activities. Like I couldn't be in a sport. I couldn't do anything. It was
Mm-hmm.
like, um, so yeah, I think it took a long time for me to get to this place. I remember actually there was one particular incident which I'm actually writing about right now, and I wasn't going to write about it, but I was talking to Tori about it because he was asking me almost the same question, like, what was it that made you
Mm-hmm.
pivot? And I always think, well, I used to ditch school and take the bus to the Bodhi Tree in West Hollywood. I don't know if you how long you've been in West Hollywood or in Hollywood in LA, but there used to be this little new agey shop on Melrose and oh my God, is it Westmount?
Mm-hmm.
And right by La Pan. It was
This
right
is
on that
very
corner.
inside LA, by the way. Like
Very
you
inside.
take Fairfax down, you make a left.
So there used to be a little new agey shop there called the Bodhi Tree that had
Mhm.
all like the fun meditation, metaphysical books, crystals and sage and candles and psychic shop, like all of those fun things. And I would always take the bus and go in there, and that's how I started to learn about yoga and meditation and manifestation and all of those fun things as a teenager. And I thought that for me, I was like, oh well, that was like it. You know, that's what got me into all this really cool, neat things. But it wasn't. It was actually one of the times where I was having this, and I feel like I have existential crisis every, I don't know, quarter,
Hmm.
every couple of months.
Every
I think it's actually,
fiscal. Yeah.
yeah, every time my taxes are due, I I have an existential crisis. Um, but yeah, I feel like for me it's a healthy thing because I'm such an inquisitive person. I like
Mm-hmm.
to ask questions. Obviously, look at my life, right? So my world revolves around asking questions. So I took the bus one day to Venice Beach,
Mm-hmm.
and something that I did often when I didn't feel like going to school, I was like, I'm just going to go to the beach. And I remember going and getting to gritty Venice and, you know, walking through the sand in my Chucks. And those are Converse, by the way.
Oh, I'm aware.
Just making
I
sure.
was like looking for mine.
Uh, I was walking through
My
the
bad.
sand, and then I finally got to this place, and I'm sitting in the sand watching the ocean, and yeah, I'm just contemplating life, and this woman is walking by, clearly not from LA. And when you're from LA, you always know when people are not from LA. Even if they've lived in LA, you always know when people are not from LA. And she started to say hello, and I can tell she was from the Midwest right away. She had that cute little Midwest accent,
Oh,
so sweet
hi.
and nice. Uh-huh. Oh. And it was just, to me, it's like I love Southern and Midwestern accents so much. I mean, they just are so kind and nice. In my experience anyway. But so she comes by and she says hi, and I'm kind of not trying to talk to her. I'm like, I'm just trying to have an existential moment right
Mm-hmm.
now. I'm trying to just, think about life and not have a conversation with you. So she starts talking to me, and then she says, "Oh, it looks like you're really thinking about something very deeply." And I was like, "I am, in fact." And do you not have school?" And I'm like, "I do." I'm just not in school right this second. And she kind of laughed a little bit. Um, and then she said, "Well, you're in the right place. You know, there's there's no there's no problem the ocean can't fix." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, she's actually right." And as I was sitting there, she kept walking, and I just had that moment where I was like, "Wow, there's no problem that I have that's ever going to be bigger than the ocean,
Right.
ever." And so it was sort of that realization that for me, nature has always been such a healing place, always, consistently. Like it's my panacea.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in that moment that I realized, like, oh, wow, there's a world outside of the world that's in my head.
Yes. Which
you
is
know?
something that every teenager needs to learn at some point, right? Anyway, but it's incredible that this came at such a pivotal point for you. Can I ask, are you comfortable sharing like why you were in the criminal justice system?
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, for a long time I didn't, because I didn't, again, think it was noteworthy. I tried to steal a cop car um at a park that was like a um undercover like sting operation that was happening at Sierra Vista Park by my school. They were trying to bust somebody that was at the park, that hung out at the park. There was this local park where people would ditch and hang out and get high and stuff. And they were trying to bust a person that was there. And so they had staged this sort of chase. I don't know what it was. I didn't see it. The only thing I got to see was like the two cars. It was a cop car and a red Honda Prelude that were just with doors open and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And I was not high. I was totally sober. And everybody at the park was like telling me to get in the car. Like, what's the big deal? Like, you should go get in the car. And I wanted to be cool. And I was, 15 years old, and I wanted to impress all of the older people. And so I did. And the cops showed up, and there's like cop cars, guns drawn,
Oh
like,
shit.
oh, it was a thing.
So
Yeah.
I only ask that to ask like criminal like I'm sure that you just growing up in the environment that you grew up in, I'm sure that you know people who were punished way harsher for things
Mhm.
and did worse things than you did and were punished harsher or
Yeah.
got away with it. I wanted to know your thoughts on the criminal, like the juvenile criminal justice system as someone who, let's say flirted with that or
Yeah.
was involved with that.
Mm.
Like how do you feel that we treat kids from disadvantaged neighborhoods like yours in that system?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And look, I'm not one to pontificate about what needs to change
Mhm.
in the justice system or what's wrong. I have family members that are in law enforcement. I have family members that have served in the military. I also have family members that are in prison. And I have family members who are currently still in the justice system. So I and people like close people. So it's a very interesting place to be in now as an adult, to look back and think about it. But I do have to say that Los Angeles in general, when it comes to juvenile programs, has gotten so much better now. California as a whole, I can't speak for
Mm-hmm.
because I have other family members that live in different counties, in different places, and it's not improved at all. If anything, it's gotten worse,
Mm-hmm.
which is really sad because people don't understand the inner workings of what it means to be in the justice system and how people make money off of this and how it's like the only source of income for certain counties. Um, and again, I'm not going to stand here and talk about that because I feel like there are way more educated people that know more about the system than myself. But I do feel like it's gotten better. I think it can always get better, but it takes funding. And
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think that the right programs are funded. A lot of the times when you see kids out there rioting and breaking windows and shit and doing things that are getting them into trouble, like people look at rioters and they're like, oh, well, rioters, they should get punished or they needed, like these people like are just out to cause harm. But to me, I look at anybody who causes that kind of violence and I'm like, what is happening in their lives
Mm-hmm.
that is creating that? That's where I go. I'm like, what happened to this person? Or do they have food in their home? Like I remember Tori and I were watching during these most recent riots where right here, close to where we live in the valley, they had broken into a rallies or something, or like some, not rallies, that's I think in inland, but it was like one of those like John's grocery
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
stores, And there was this guy, like this younger guy, like coming out with like loaves of bread and milk and stuff, and I'm just like, oh my god, like, you know, to me, it's like there's just a bigger issue,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that the more that we bring our attention and our awareness to it, we can address the real underlying issues, which are education and
Poverty.
poverty,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying poverty in the way of like, oh, we need to get more government funding. It's like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we do, but it's more like, why don't we focus on just creating more um, opportunity and just more ways for people to actually have upward mobility as opposed
Mm-hmm.
to keeping them reliant on a system, you know?
Yeah, I totally get that. And I think, this is slightly off topic, but I think that when it's broadcast on your TV, people will take any excuse they can find to dehumanize someone.
Of course.
And
Because then
so,
that makes you feel better about, if you're not like me, if you're not human like me, then I can treat you like
hmm
garbage,
and I don't have to feel bad that you're being kept in a
Mhm.
cage.
Mhm. Exactly.
Yeah.
We've become so we've become um such a desensitized culture,
hmm
where on one hand, yes, it's amazing that we are speaking up about injustice and all the things that are happening right now. But on the other hand, it's like we're so desensitized to the fact that there is so much misinformation out there. We believe whatever we're seeing. We we buy into things that might not be the reality. We've taken away the actual groundwork that it takes to know something, to find knowledge, which apropos comes right back to what this podcast is about. But
Exactly right.
this sort of wisdom that we garner from actual experience. Do you remember? I mean, look, you and I are the same age
Ish.
ish. Um, like doing a paper for school, like
hmm
college. So like obviously not obviously, I went to college, after taking a year off. And once, my life started to come back together, I paid my way through college. And it was such a different experience because now I was like, wow, I really want to learn. I always loved learning,
hmm
always. But, like going into the library and actually doing research,
Yeah, of course.
pulling the books out and getting your little reference cards and doing your research. Like there's a substance to that. Not to say that research online is not substantial, but we often take the shortcut of, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So we have the entirety of the world's information in our pockets at all time. And that's like democracy, right? It's the democratization of information, but that just like the democratization of news, some news is more truthful than other news, and
Yeah, and
some
they're not required by law to be
ex-
truthful.
exactly. And so same with like the idea of research and knowing, right? Knowing something is whatever is at the top of the Google search is the thing that you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm a teacher as
Right.
well, and I see on the other side of it, the other side of the desk, the same huge problems
Yeah.
with
I
just
I
like
really think
knowing.
that there is something to learn from being patient and waiting for information to trickle in.
Hmm.
Our mind scientifically or biologically cannot process all the information we put into it with all this not the with technology,
Right.
with reading the constant like barrage of information. Our brain cannot process it all at
Hmm.
once. It's a fast computer, it's a powerful computer, but it's still way
It's squishy.
yeah, it's not your processor on your computer,
Right.
and I think that when you think about things that take a long time, um, there's a different substance to it. It's a different type of learning, and it's
Absolutely.
a different type of knowing. And I think that that is what's missing in our society now.
But
We've lost that, you
and
know.
let's tie that to that we're all expecting profound enlightenment, right? We're
Oh,
all expecting profound enlightenment instantaneously, the burning
virtual
bush, right?
guru. Yeah.
Virtual guru. And even like when you were a kid, going from angry and selfish to not angry and not selfish, we expected that. Like narratively, I was like, what was the name me the minute in the day that happened? And that's not the way we work. Like we learn slowly.
Yes. And for us to feel a deep level of fulfillment requires us time to process. And that's why so many people say the adage, oh, I blinked and my life was here. Like
Mm-hmm.
my life went by in the blink of an eye. It's because when you're not being present in your life, that's what's going to happen. I think back, it, I mean, it's fucking September. Like this
Yeah.
whole year has gone
Blinked
by
and it
and,
went
and
by.
yeah. And I can't say, obviously like I'm a doer. I'm a results driven person. So I'm constantly trying to do things or else I go nuts. But there are certain things that require our attention. When I think back, I'm like, what substantial thing have I done this year? Like, because we've been so uprooted from our routine, the entire world has been
Mm-hmm.
uprooted from the norm, that this has caused such a huge, I want to say opportunity because that's my
Yeah.
optimist
Right.
person
You don't say
inside.
problem, you say opportunity.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
like this is an opportunity for us to create something new or to up level our ability to be present in a substantial way. And I'm saying substantial like I use that word a lot because for me I'm a very tactile learner.
Mm-hmm.
And so I need to have the time and space to integrate. Like I need to integrate. I can't just learn something and then just go on to the next thing. I will not retain it.
Right.
I need to be, and because I teach people, like I teach teachers how to be teachers, one of the things that I always say, it's like you have to imitate before you integrate. So imitate what you've learned so that you can begin to integrate as part of your being and it becomes a more natural way of living your life. And I feel like experience and our wisdom is the same. Like we have to be able to practice what we preach in order for us to feel integrated in it. I mean, like I by no means have shit figured out at all. I'm a train wreck just like everybody else. Like it is very I have some great tools, I mean, I don't let myself get to that place like when I was a teenager, but there have been those moments of I just don't know what to do with my time right now, or how did this week go by so quickly and nothing got done? Like, what
Yeah. All
happened?
you did was
You know?
survive a pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, no
That
big
little
deal.
old thing.
This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Is there something interfering with your happiness or is preventing you from achieving your goals? I know that the last couple of months for me and a lot of people I know, it has been such an emotional upheaval, up and down. This is coming from somebody who's been in and out of therapy for the last 15 years. BetterHelp will help assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. You can start communicating in under 48 hours. It's not a crisis line, it's not a self-help, it's a professional counseling service done straight online. There's a broad range of expertise available, which may not be locally available in many areas, especially with a lot of things being closed down right now. The service is available for clients worldwide. You can log into your account anytime and send a message to your counselor. You'll get a timely and thoughtful response. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions, so you won't ever have to sit in an uncomfortable waiting room, as with traditional therapy. BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches so that they make it easy for you and free to change counselors if you need. It's more affordable than traditional offline counseling, and financial aid is available. BetterHelp wants you to start living a happier life today. Visit their website and read their testimonials that are posted daily. Visit betterhelp.com/wise. That's better, HELP, and join over 1 million people taking charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional. In fact, so many people have been using BetterHelp that they are recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. Today, they're offering our listeners for the WISE podcast 10% off of your first month if you visit betterhelp.com/wise. That's betterhelp, HELP.com/wise, WISE, to get 10% off of your first month. So my workout schedule's been rather hectic lately, and I'm noticing it's starting to really wear me down. And even though I'm getting all my workouts in, practicing yoga nidra and meditation, and doing whatever I can to keep my stress levels low, I can still feel like I'm stressed. No one likes feeling stressed out, and even worse, how it can affect the people closest to you. But lately I've been doing something a little different, and it's been helping me feel great again. A friend of mine who recently recovered from an absolute burnout told me that it wasn't time off or more rest or a secret relaxation technique that saved him. This is where it gets really interesting. He said that all he did was add a mineral to his diet based upon his doctor's recommendation. I was hooked. So I asked him, of course, what mineral was it? And he told me that he was recommended a super dose of magnesium. You see, magnesium is the fourth most abundant mineral in the human body. Since the nutrient is responsible for 300 to 600 different biochemical reactions in the body, including metabolism, when your levels are low, you struggle with sleep, energy, metabolism, pain, and stress. You can get magnesium from certain foods like black beans, nuts, avocados, spinach, and more, but if you really want to make sure you get enough magnesium for what your body needs, I recommend using a supplement in addition to these foods. Now, before you go research magnesium supplements, know this. Most magnesium supplements fail to help you beat stress for two primary reasons. The first, they are synthetic, unnatural, and not recognized by your body. And two, they are not full spectrum, meaning they don't have all 7 forms that you need. So today I want to introduce you to the best magnesium supplement I've found. It's the most potent, complete, first full spectrum magnesium formula ever created. It's called Magnesium Breakthrough. Magnesium Breakthrough is a complete formula that includes naturally derived forms of all 7 forms of supplemental magnesium, and it doesn't contain any synthetic additives or preservatives. This is the most potent oral magnesium you will ever find, period. Many notice a sense of calm, relaxation, their nervous system and stress levels are soothed, is often observed within the first week. If used daily and as instructed, most people use Magnesium Breakthrough in the morning, which is when I like to use it, to help them stay calm and resilient to deal with the day. And even within 3 to 5 weeks, most people experience a level of peace and serenity that they haven't felt in a very long time. I highly recommend trying Magnesium Breakthrough for at least 30 days to see how it will make a difference in your mood or stress levels. Today, you can get 10% off with a special W.I.S.E podcast coupon code when you visit biooptimizers.com/wise. Visit betterhelp.com/wise. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/wise, WISE, to get 10% off of your first month. And now, back to our show.
So let's go back. You're 16. You're on the beach. You learn in one instant that there's no problem you'll ever have that's bigger than the ocean. Ever. So then you go to college. What do you study in college?
So then I went through all the different, I did political science major. I did art history. I wanted to do marine biology. Then I wanted to become a doctor. So I did pre-med. And then what was the last? Then I just went back to business, and I was like, maybe I'll just do business.
What were you
Admin.
looking for?
Oh, what is that? Is like the ultimate question. What are we all looking for?
Well, at that point, what were you looking for?
I think at that point I was just looking to. I had friends that had gone to college, and all of my friends at that point I was already working in Hollywood, and all of the people that I knew that went to college, half of them were like, "Don't go to college; it's a waste of time." All the successful people that I had known at that time had not gone to college, and the people that had gone to college recommended that I just do something that if I was going to go to college, because I was determined to go to college, that I study something that I was into, that it didn't matter like what I was going to do for a living, that I just studied something that I liked, because it's like, you're going to spend a lot of money to study something. Why not have it be something that you're into? And I think that's why I changed my major around so much. But then I ended up just, going to yoga school, doing a yoga teacher training,
So we're in phase 3.
Yes.
Yoga teacher training. So
yoga teacher training.
Would I be wrong in saying that was your calling? Calling's a weird word.
Yeah.
Something that makes you happy.
I think that because yoga had served me so much at that point, it allowed me to establish a deep connection to my mind, my body, my spirit, my soul, that it was it was addicting. It was completely self-serving. I didn't think about it as a way to serve other people. It was just purely self-serving. Like, how could I get more of this? I need more of this.
What was the this that
ambrosia.
you're looking for?
it was just that feeling of community, of connection, of something outside of myself that was going to restore me to sanity. That thing that just felt like a sanctuary space. It felt like church, and it really felt like I was experiencing me for who I actually, or what I actually was.
Forced you to be present.
Yeah, it gave me tools to learn different ways of being in the world. And I think that I just wanted to learn how to be human. Like, I just wanted to learn how to be present, and how to not be angry, and how to not be resentful, and how to not be like a shitty person. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. But I think once I began to learn all of that, I started to see the value that it had created in my own personal experience. And I then wanted to bring this practice and this method, this philosophy, to people who grew up like me. I mean, that was really the incentive. I was like, wow, had I learned this when I was young, or had my aunt had this, or my uncle had this, he wouldn't have, ended up being a drug addict. Or had my aunt had this, she wouldn't have ended up being in an abusive relationship. Like things like that were motivating my desire to teach this to other people.
So what is Radically Loved Radio?
Like the podcast?
Yeah, but what is it?
Oh, it's a podcast? No, I'm just kidding.
It's a podcast that
It's
you
a
host.
podcast. It's a podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, anywhere you get your podcast. It Radically Loved was born from me moving up to Portland back in 2013. So 7 years ago. I lived there for 4 years, but when I moved up there, I had never um, lived anywhere else than LA. Like I thought that LA was the center of the universe. I didn't have any desire to ever live anywhere else. I mean, I was born and raised, went to school, went to college within an 8-mile radius of the hospital where I was born.
Mm.
So that was really, that was like, I don't know why I would ever
Yeah,
leave.
you're in the snow globe.
Yeah. And at the time, Tori was having a midlife crisis, and I was already, in my teaching career and doing all that. And I just felt like I couldn't be an advocate for change if I was so attached. See, there's that attachment again to just being and living in a place and not having a different experience. And I'd always wanted to live somewhere else. And so when we moved up there, it was extremely uprooting and depressing for me because I'd never used, I'm going to date myself. I'd never used MapQuest or like any map service to find my home. Like I'd never needed to use directions for anything. I didn't need to find directions to going to the grocery store, going to my friend's house, or going to the beach. Like you just got on the 101, you got on the 10, and then you went to the beach. Like there was, so that was it was a aggressive learning experience for me that retaught me all the same lessons that I'd learned when I was a teenager, practicing non-attachment, being able to I was so angry, I was not angry at Tori, yes, at Tori at times for sure, but I was just angry at the fact that like I had to live somewhere else, you know,
Mm-hmm.
um, that I couldn't just settle in. Like I had known so many people that have moved and could just like make their home and I'd never done that. And so I think I was just angry at myself for not being able to really practice these yogic modalities that I'd spent years learning. Um, and so I think it took maybe about a year for me to finally get to that place. And when I did, um, one of my students at the time came to one of my classes, and she was having a hard day and ended up leaving my class. And a couple of days later, she showed up with this card that said, "You are radically loved." And then on the back of the card, she had written about how she had left because she was having a hard time, and she was really grateful to have me there, and how she was just super grateful, and how she was grateful that I was teaching, that I was in Portland, that, all these really, really, really beautiful things. And it, it really helped me, instead of me being like, oh, glorify me. Like, that's so, thank you. It's not about me. It actually put me in her experience because I was like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, I feel the same way that you do. Like, I feel that exact same way. I'm also feeling lost and ungrounded and like I don't have a place. And so reading that just made me feel again that connection where I was like, okay, well, I'm not close to the ocean, but I am close to the mountain and to the incredible trees and this lush green landscape. And so I can feel the love of just the earth, and the space. And so that's where Radically Loved was formed, because I believed that even though internally I didn't feel supported, my external environment could carry the load of that heaviness, you
And
know?
you took what that woman did for you and became a beacon for other people, right? So that woman made you feel a certain way, and
Yeah.
and then you now you make other people feel that way, right? Through your classes and also through this
That is
medium of.
the intention, but I don't ever.
I can say that about you.
That's fine. Yeah, because I don't think about it like that. I've never. I don't. I'm not. I don't like being in spotlight. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's not really my thing, you know. And it's
Mm-hmm.
hard. It's hard to say that with being a public person. It's still very strange to me because I'm a big fan of don't have idols. Like be careful who your idols are. Like don't put people on pedestals because
Sure.
they will always let you down no matter what. There will be something, some flaw, some statement, some fucking post, something that will turn you off to them. You admire people, you idolize their essence of who they are and how they're showing you to be more of who you are,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Non-attachment
Yeah,
again.
non-attachment.
So
That's the big theme.
let's talk about your fucking post.
Oh,
So
here we go.
there have been a couple of times since I've known you, which is not that long. Since there have been a couple of times where you've gotten feedback that you curse too much or you advocate the wrong thing on your social media.
Right.
So what is your response to that typically?
Uh, there's two responses.
Mm-hmm.
There's my hood response,
Let's hear it.
which is the initial, get the fuck off my page.
Right.
Um, lovingly.
With a
Um,
heart at the
with a
end.
heart emoji. See, even my hood side still gets heart emoji. And then there's the other side that says, don't fucking follow me. No heart emoji.
That's also like the hood response.
Well, I guess
Spo-
then there's only one. You know what? I think it's interesting because what I think is that a lot of people that follow me or whatever, they don't really know my background. They maybe don't see. I've had people come into my car before and like be surprised at what I'm playing. You know, like, oh, I didn't know that you
oh, it's not
listened to this.
Tibetan meditation music?
No, it is sometimes. It's funny because Tori will know what kind of a mood I'm in. If he comes in, there's like, uh, like Vedic chants, or we've got like a mantra playing like throughout the house, or I'm listening to like Krishna Das or something, and it's like, oh, she's in that mode, like she's really like
What's
going
the
into the light right now. And then
what's
there's
the
other
other
times
mode?
where it's like Migos is blaring, and it's like, oh, she's cleaning,
Mm-hmm.
or like I'm doing some working out or something, and that's awesome. Like that's me. That's who I am, and I think yeah, people just don't know my background. They don't know who I am or how I grew up or like what my influences were. So people just assume because I'm a yoga teacher that I am, I don't know, fucking perfect. I have no idea. I don't
And
know. I don't know what people think. And part of like it's not that I don't care, but I don't invest too much into it.
mm-hmm.
I've never been I want people to like me. Of course. I want everybody to like me. Everybody does. I like people to like me. But but if you don't, that's okay. I don't do shit for other people to approve of me. Like I do what I do because that's what my fucking will, like,
And I
and that's
think
okay.
it also has to do with like people's conception of what a yoga teacher should be,
Yes.
which is like that means that you're born, you come out of your mother's womb and you're a yoga teacher, you're in perfect lotus position, you're in perfect tree pose and you never curse in your entire life and you are a perfect Buddhist, which is like there's no such thing as any of that.
Yeah.
Um
Look,
look.
when I was starting, I had this yoga teacher who was a big yoga teacher and in LA, and I mean, I wanted to be like her. I wanted to do all the things. I wanted to be on the cover of Yoga Journal. I wanted to like, be
Check.
I wanted to be, you know, like on the ad, like different sponsors and have ads and like, the magazines and whatever, all the things. And you know, she really put up a beautiful facade
Mm.
and really said all the right things in public, but behind the scenes, like, it was not how it was in the public. And it was, and I'm not going to stand here and disparage anybody or any woman ever. Um, and since then, she's definitely turned her life around. She doesn't teach anymore. She moved to a different state, and she's, you know, doing something else now.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, I think it really, again, sort of created this opportunity for me to see that we all go through the same things. And I didn't ever want to have a public image that wasn't transparent. And
So
I've
much
always,
work.
I know. For me, it's like I feel like I've always been pretty transparent. What I will not do is I will not let the external dictate what I should and shouldn't put out into the
Mm-hmm.
world. Like, I'm still very much in control. I still very much consider myself a private person, and I never want to lose control of what I decide to put out in the world and what I don't, because that's my business. And what I won't say is that people only see one side of me. It's like, I behave how I behave, I act how I act. I have a lot to learn. I've never preached that I was a guru or a leader or whatever. I have leadership qualities, and I do like to inspire people, but I am just speaking from experience, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't like when people start to coach people on how they should live their life, or who they need to be, or how they need to dress, or how they need to speak. Like, I just I have a I have a serious radar for bullshit, and I don't like people to bullshit me.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't bullshit my people, you know?
Well, I only have a couple more questions because I want to be respectful of your time.
Okay, Rosie.
Okay, Rosie. Uh, what does wisdom mean to you?
Wisdom is our own ability to have an experience that we can grow from in a way to help others.
Mm-hmm. Do you consider yourself a success?
Hmm, that's a good question. I always know when people say that's a good question, they're just trying to buy time. Side note. Um,
I think
do
it's a
I
good question, but
do I consider myself? No, it is no for me. No, no, yes, 100%. No, it's a great question. Um, not yet.
not
I
yet.
don't think. Not yet. Maybe,
What?
maybe not this lifetime.
Maybe
I
not
don't know.
this lifetime.
There's things that I've done that I feel like have been successful, but I just I don't know. No, not yet.
You're writing a book now.
I am right now, actually. After we get off of this, I got some writing to do.
Some notes to write down.
Yeah.
Um, what do you know? Do you have a title? Do you have an ETA? What's it going to be about?
It is called and it is about uh I can't say the title yet, but it's a book about spiritual empowerment. It has both intellectual and experiential practices in there. Um, it weaves in my story through self discovery. So that's an overarching theme of what the book's about.
Mm-hmm.
It's right now slated to come out fall of 2021. So a year from now.
And we all know that deadlines have been super stuck
I
to
mean,
these days.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. So I don't know, at the latest spring of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
If you had some advice to give the angry 6-year-old or the
oh.
15-year-old on the beach, what would you say to them?
I wouldn't say anything. I would not say anything. I would listen. That's what I would do. I wouldn't say anything. I think that's the problem with a lot of our society right now is too many people are thinking they need to say stuff, and I think we need to listen more.
Okay, last question. Has the chaos gone away?
That's good. That's real good. No. I think
So
it just I think the chaos becomes so normalized that and it's so much a part of your formative years for me anyway that it just transforms into a different type of chaos. For example, for me now that the chaos doesn't exist externally, it now exists internally, and I think it shows up in my own ability to constantly want to do more and constantly have multiple things going on so that I feel comfort in the discomfort. You know, it's a little bit sadistic. And I hear it all the time from Tori where he's like, why do you do this to yourself? Why do you do this to yourself? Why do you do this to yourself? You've said it to me a couple of times.
I have said it to you. But how do you cope with it? I mean, so the chaos hasn't gone away. It's transformed into almost purely, not entirely internal, but mostly internal. But you're not as angry or depressed as you once were, I hope.
Yeah, no, for sure. There's different tools now, right? So there's different ways of dealing with the chaos. And when it's self-induced, I think that there are things to do to sort of mitigate that. And for me, it's definitely meditation, yoga, mindfulness, practicing presence, going out into nature and giving myself those moments of I can't do little moments throughout the day of peace. I need to give myself I need to block out about a week in a calendar and do nothing, just process or just give myself an opportunity to not have anything on my calendar. And I try really hard, but it's very difficult for me to, especially as an entrepreneur.
Right. The
I'm in
hustle is
business
real
for myself. Yeah, there's no, there's no rest for the wicked. So it becomes a little bit of a challenge. The internal chaos, I don't think it has in my opinion, for myself, I guess I don't look at my experience as chaotic as a negative. And even when I talk about it, I want to make sure that I disclaim that. When I say I grew up in a chaotic environment, look up the definition of chaos, To me, it's the frenetic of unsettled things, the frenetic energy of just a lot of things that don't have a home yet.
Disorder.
Yeah. And so I don't necessarily view it to me, I learned so much. I would never change my experience at all, ever, because it made me who I am. And I very much like who I am. I'm a very reliable and I try to be consistent, but I always know how to make things happen, you know. Maybe it's not on the timeline of other people, but I can always accomplish things. I can always finish things. I like to finish things that I start. And I think that in a way the chaos enables me to put forth the effort, right? So there's procrastinators, right? I'm a heavy procrastinator, you know that. I saw this TED Talk once. I can't remember the guy's name, but he talked about chaos and how there's two types of procrastinators. Everybody procrastinates, right? There's just two kinds, two types. There's the organized type, and then there's the unorganized type. And I'm definitely more of the unorganized panic monster type, where it's I panic and I'm like, I need to do it. And sometimes things turn out amazing and great. That's few and far between. And most of the time they don't, but I really pride myself in the small feats, the things that I can get done. Like I feel like at a buffet. I want all the flavors. I'll just stack that. I'll stack it up. I'll put the plate till it's spilling over with all the different flavors. And maybe if I don't get to everything, at least it makes me feel like, oh, at least I tried, you
Because
know?
you only get one go around, right?
Yeah, you only get one go around and fuck it. If it doesn't work out, try something else. I try to be, again, just going back to non-attachment. Maybe that's like the constant theme, you
Maybe.
know?
Don't tell
Just
me
not
what
a,
the theme is. I'll tell you what the theme
right.
is.
Sorry, forgot.
So what's the next flavor? What's the next thing you're gonna
Oh
try?
God. I think I don't know. I definitely feel like there's something new coming.
Mhm.
I have the desire for something new, for something different. I find that I am a creature of habit. I can really get into that comfort zone, and I don't like to be too comfortable. I know that when I've gotten too comfortable, things I start to feel the dissatisfaction in my life, and it will show up in my relationship. It will show up in my environment, the city I live. Like I will find ways to be dissatisfied.
Mhm.
That's how I know I'm like, oh, you're too comfortable. Like,
Mhm.
how are you going to grow now in a different way? And so and I know it's the fucking pandemic and all the things that are happening, and so many of us have had to really use this opportunity to pivot our business, to pivot our spiritual practice, to pivot our mental health, all of the things,
Relationships, everything. Yeah.
everything. Um, but I definitely feel hopeful. Um, I love life. I love having new opportunities. I love learning different things, and I definitely have that pang for doing something else. Doing something new. Maybe in the entertainment industry.
Oh, maybe. Um, and also I like that you view it as growth, that you're doing you're finding new experiences and new ways to express yourself as a form of growth, as opposed to like what I do to myself, which is like numbing, where I'm like, oh, I've got to take on 17 new projects because I don't want to
Oh my
like
god.
feel anything,
Right.
right? And
Yeah.
so that's an inspirational kind of way to view it.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, I think it can also be looked at as that. I mean, I sort of regret not having any of the vices that my friends have, like drinking and stuff,
Sure.
because especially during this time, I'm like, man, I could really use a drink, or
Do you not
like,
do you not drink at all, or just like
no,
rarely?
no, no, I don't. I
Oh,
don't, but I've never said that I'm not, that's not to say that I won't.
right.
you know, I'm not in recovery, but
I'm the same way, right? Like I'll have like a beer a year.
oh yeah, then
Yeah.
that's yeah. So I am yeah, like I might decide to take something. I don't know, whatever. That's a separate topic. We can talk about that later.
Yeah,
But
this will
yeah,
all get cut
I
out.
sort of I do have that it's fucked up to say, but it's like I do envy that I don't have any any coping numbing mechanism other than my own uh desire to overwhelm myself
Mhm.
in that
Mhm.
sadistic way. Maybe that's my vice, where it's like I overwhelm myself to not be able to sleep at night because I'm like, I got so much shit I gotta do, like I
Yeah,
gotta
it hits
do
you with
it.
that adrenaline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like having that adrenaline. For me, it's very it's kind of weird, when I do have a lot of things on my plate, because this is gonna be really fucked up. But when I meditate in the morning, I wake up and I do my practice. It is like the most peaceful time of for me during the day. Um, and I start to think, oh, I got to do this. I got to respond to this email. I got to record this. I've got this interview. I've got to do this. I've got I've got to teach this, you
Mhm.
know. And then I just sit there and I'm like, no, I don't. I don't have to do any of it. Like
Right.
I literally can delete it all right now. Like I don't have to do anything right now. I have to just sit here. And it's sort of setting that tone to relax
Mm-hmm.
and just have the experience of the day and take that pressure off of myself, you know? So it's
And
almost like I put
yeah.
the pressure on and then I take the pressure off.
And you're gifting all those projects with your presence. They don't own you,
Right.
right?
I like that.
Yeah. Just made it
I
up
have a
now.
question for you.
You have a question for me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Who is the most inspiring woman in your life and why?
The most inspiring woman in my life and why is my mom. And I know that that's basically everyone's answer. Um but so this is going to make me sound horrible, but just for like a half of a sentence. So my mom has a PhD in psychology, and worked two jobs, and was the breadwinner in the family, and is like a great person, not a very good cook. Like so the gender roles in my immediate family were not the super normative general gender roles that you'd see in like whatever on sitcoms. And so for a really long time I didn't understand the need for feminism. This is the bad part, right? I didn't understand the need for feminism because exactly zero people fuck with my mother. And so
So good.
I went to college, and this is my first time like living, beyond my little home in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and realized that that's not the case everywhere else. And so the unlearning that I've had to do about gender stems from me thinking that we had crossed the finish line using my mom as an example, because she's just like a boss bitch. She's awesome. And she worries. She's like a typical Jewish mother. She like worries about me. She calls me all the time. But got a PhD in psychology when she had like a child. Like
Wow.
so she's super inspirational, and every 6 months or every year or so that I find a new reason to be inspired by her. And basically all the women in my family were like boss as hell. My grandmother survived the Holocaust. My grandmother's older sister, this is like a whole another story, but
Wow.
my grandmother was sick when she was in the Warsaw Ghetto in Poland, and my grandmother's older sister like basically like prostituted herself to a Nazi to get her medicine. So it's like just
Wow.
yeah. And so my family is full of inspirational women, um and I'm really happy that I had those role models. And honestly, I took those role models for granted when I was younger because I didn't realize that not everyone had them.
Mm.
But now, every as I get every day that I age, I am more thankful for kind of them modeling that behavior.
Wow. That's awesome. That's so lucky.
I'm extremely lucky.
Who is that's amazing. God, they sound like incredible women.
They're
Yeah, that's
so they're,
so
but you wouldn't know by looking at them. They're like cute and little and like ultra like neurotic Jewish ladies,
Oh my god.
but they're also just like so awesome, and
I
they
love
worked so hard.
I love that. My mom's first boss was this Norma, sweet little Jewish lady. And so we knew about Hanukkah because she would always bring,
Mhm.
we celebrated Hanukkah.
Mhm.
She would like come over and she would make us latkes.
Latkes.
Yeah. And which are fucking delicious.
Not the way my mom makes.
Really? How come?
She doesn't cook very well.
Oh no, that's okay.
My dad was the cook, and my mom was the breadwinner.
Damn.
And
She was real boss.
she was, yeah, and it wasn't even like it there was no kind of like masculinity involved in it in any way. It was just like, oh yeah, my mom has the better job right now, and so this is what's happening.
Oh my god, that's
Yeah.
amazing. That is amazing.
So where can people find more of you on the internet?
They. I have one more question.
Oh, for me. Okay.
Yeah.
Lay it on me.
Who had? So we are already 7 episodes in.
This is
to
our 8th episode.
This is our 8th, but
Mhm.
7 guests.
Mm-hmm.
Who has been your favorite guest so far, and what have you learned?
Oh, really interesting. I really liked Marissa Peer. And specifically, one of the things that she was saying was the the definition of passive aggression, which is like big in the Jewish community. Um, and so like when she said, she comes home and her mom says, "Mom, you always check your voicemail before you come talk to me." Like being active and not waiting around for someone to make you angry so that you have an excuse to be angry, right? And so that is a thing that's like very very present in my family.
Mm,
And so that's currently a thing that I'm trying to um unlearn and relearn. And
yeah.
I also really liked Melissa Hunter because I'm also in the film industry, and it's great to hear success stories of writers and directors and breaking in, and can't wait for her show, She-Hulk.
Yeah, I know, me too. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Um,
What about you?
well,
What were your favorite? Can you pick a
oh
favorite?
man, they're all my favorite. I don't think I can pick a favorite.
See,
There've
so
been
you put me
so
on the spot.
many, so many gems. I mean, from, Charlene Roxborough, like
Love
she is
Charlene. Yeah.
so inspiring. I mean, like that woman, they're all boss. They're all
They're
boss,
all great.
like
Yeah.
every single one. Melissa, um, you know, Dr. Terrorai
Oh,
Trent,
Terror Eye
passing
was
the
also one of my
baton,
favorite ones. Just
you know,
totally blew my mind. And
um,
we're gonna have equally amazing, even more amazing guests in season 2.
yes. Oh my God, season 2, you guys. We literally just started planning season 2. We already have the guests on confirmed, and
Mm-hmm.
we can't even.
We
I'm
can't
like, we
can't
can't.
share a ton of it,
Oh
but
my
it's gonna
God.
be cool, and it's gonna be unlike any other podcast that you've heard.
Yeah. Yes. And even better than that because Aviv is also going to produce that. So,
I'm gonna produce it unless Rosie fires me in the next month.
oh, that'll not happen.
Pish posh. Where can people find more of your work on the internet?
They can go to. You can find more of my work on Instagram. And actually, I've not even been active on Instagram at all. I've so dropped off because I've been
False.
writing.
I watched your story like
Well,
this
I'm on
morning.
stories all the time, but on like posting on my grid. I've been
Oh,
on
the
TikTok
grid.
a lot. Have you checked my TikTok?
I'm
I'm
too old for
TikToking now.
TikTok.
So I'm on TikTok and Instagram. That's where people can find me.
And
You're
your
not
handles
too
are?
For TikTok, it's Rosie Acosta, ITSROSIE ACOSTA, and on Instagram, it's just at Rosie Acosta.
And you can listen to Rosie's voice on Radically Loved Radio weekly. And
Yeah, we just got on iHeartRadio for Radically Loved
Oh,
Radio, which is awesome.
how
So
about
you can
that?
listen to there. You
I
can
didn't
listen
even know that.
to that on there.
And look
So.
out for Rosie's book called um is that the first chapter?
With the subheading.
Oh,
No,
right.
it's
Okay.
with the. Oh my God.
This is how we talk to each other all the time. We just goof off.
You guys have no idea. Like, I think that if you guys enjoyed this and you enjoyed Aviv's question, please send us notes. Let us know, because if we want him on again, we want to make sure that we like him. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we
I'm
like
going
him.
to get a bunch of thumbs downs, I bet.
No, people might want to know more. I mean, I'm curious to know more about you.
I'm wearing a Baby Yoda shirt right now.
I know. I hope people watch this on
the YouTube.
And
rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, or basically wherever you get your podcast, and keep the conversation going. We have a Instagram. It's at
the W.I.S.E podcast.
And send us questions. Let us know how you felt about me or any of the guests.
Me. Just tell us what your thoughts are. Like, this is part of what helps us keep going is your feedback. We want to know what you think about the guests. What do you think about the content of this podcast? Some of you are already listeners of Radically Loved Radio, but I am telling you now, this is different than Radically Loved. It is way more focused on getting to the deep and sort of formative questions of these inspiring women and how they become who they are, which I feel like it gives us more bandwidth to go deeper with people than on Radically Loved Radio.
And if you have suggestions for guests, for questions, I'm the
tell
producer of
us.
the show, so you can direct stuff to the Wise podcast or to my personal Instagram. And we're always looking to hone our skills.
And where can they reach you on Instagram?
I'm on Instagram and Twitter at Rambo Calrissian. Rambo Calrissian. And you can email me, I guess.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know.
I wouldn't do that.
You can call
Don't
me?
do that. Yeah, no. Just message you on Instagram. Follow me on Instagram. I've made the mistake on the other radio show to give my email, and that's why I don't check that email anymore. It's just like
Just a flood.
yeah. If you guys do have on Instagram, you guys have been messaging us on Instagram. Just like keep doing that. There is a web page for the show on my website on radicallyloved.com. So if you go to radicallyloved.com, there's a tab that says WISE, and you can read up on all our guests, the show notes, everything's there. You can listen there too.
Well, thank you for being our guest this week, Rosie.
Thanks for having me.
It's an audio medium. You can't just curtsy.
Oh, right. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to
Thank you so much.
What was chatted about here. And thank you so much for just continuing to support us. Our numbers keep growing, which is very exciting. That means you guys are listening. And
brings me joy.
It makes Aviv happy. It keeps him employed. It keeps me employed. So just continue to listen and share with your friends and rate us on iTunes. And we want to get to know you too. So we'll be using Instagram more once the season is wrapped. There will be different ways to interact with the community. So stay tuned for those things. And thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, well, we'll talk to you next week. Thanks for listening, and thanks so much to Rosie for switching roles with me for this week. Rosie will be back next week as the regular host of the show as we start to wrap up our first season with an interview with best-selling author Elizabeth Gilbert. In the meantime, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts, and don't forget to write in and tell us who your favorite guest has been so far this season. Until next time, for the WISE podcast, I'm Aviv Rubenstein. We'll see you next time.